And we're back. For the meats, we did not workshop it at all, so we're still just calling it the death meats.
Dead meats.
There's some flies flying around, perhaps, or,
It's decomposing.
Ew. It's all part of the life cycle, which I'm sure we'll talk
Hey,
about
that's
as
what we're
we
talking about,
get
the
into
end of it. But also, it's a cycle, so it never ends, right?
the end and also the beginning.
The end and the beginning. Hello? So how fitting, again, we're just exiting the Pisces season. Yes, we are in the newness of the Aries season, just post the spring equinox, right? But we're gonna talk about death. We're gonna rewind just a little bit, and
let's talk about death.
Talk about death. So traditionally, this is the 8th house action, right? This is where we find death in the natal charts. It's the 8th house. That's why people get weird about the 8th house. Like, oh God, the 8th house, what's going on over there?
Am I gonna die?
Am I gonna die?
You'd probably
Is
be
someone
fine,
going
actually.
to die? We get inheritances from the 8th house, but again, someone usually has to die
in order for that to happen. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to be exact, the 8th house is known as the house of change and transformation. So death is the ultimate transformation of life.
It's true.
It's transformed to spirits. That's us, Pisces. We've transformed into another plane, another dimension, another being. I don't know. The soul is there, but we've gone to, I don't know where we're going. I don't know what's happening after. I just don't know. They wiped my memory. I don't know what's going on.
We're here, though.
So we'll figure it out again after it's over. So many times death can be indicated by the planets that are in the 8th house or transiting the 8th house. But we'll get into it, okay?
Okay.
Don't go getting weird with your charts over here.
I'm ready to pull mine up. Like, all right, where are we?
You're gonna be all right. It's gonna be fine. Now, remember, in traditional astrology, death is actually inseparable from life. Again, because it's all one cycle and circle. So the ending is a new beginning.
Yeah,
right. Just
makes sense to me.
We just ended the year, the astrological year, and here we are in the beginning. Like, it's Pisces season rolls right back into Aries season. So, we in life, we're the baby again,
I'm baby. It's Aries season. It's I'm baby yet again. Sounds right.
Yes. It's like my birthday horoscope the other day. It was like, hey, it's all about you. I was like, and that's very Aries energy.
It is actually. It is all about me.
I am baby. And so here we are. So, nothing to get scared about, right?
Sure.
It's just, in this sense, just moving on to the next life, whatever that life is.
Nothing to fear.
So what are the signs, right? Like, what are we looking for? We're in the chart. If we're looking at death, I think a lot of people maybe don't look at death. I don't know. People are different. Scorpios probably do.
Right.
They're not scared.
It's kind of their whole thing, actually.
Right. They know exactly, like, it looks like I'm going to die in this way. It's like, oh, all of I've consulted with the Akashic Records. Just looked at the charts. I know the dates.
All over it. You're ready.
I can't know these things. That's something I need to be surprised about.
Yeah, I'd prefer to be surprised about it.
Right. I do not need to know it's coming. I mean, I know it's coming, but
it's coming for us all eventually. But yeah, totally. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So, we're all going to die. We're all going to leave this body. And what you believe happens after that, of course, is up to you. But we're going to talk a little bit, we're talking about the dying part, right? So
the process.
Eastern civilizations tend to be more inclined to accept reincarnation, right? So we talk a lot. I think we kind of talk more in that line here. But everyone doesn't see that. But Eastern civilizations tend to see that more as, like that cycle. So
Yeah.
death is not a definitive end. It's, just that, again, it's just a phase.
A
It's that.
transformation into a
Mm-hmm.
different part of the journey, right?
Yep.
Like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the birth chart can reveal information about the timing and the circumstances of our death. And some people even use astrology to help them cope with the loss of a loved one.
Hmm. That's nice.
That's interesting. I was
Yeah.
like, well, I mean, like, what, in what way? Um, I'm curious about that.
Maybe just like looking at their death chart or
Right?
something. Like,
This
yeah.
is comforting. Like, yeah, it did say it was gonna die by fire. Like, no, no, I don't
Yeah,
know.
it was in the chart. So as above, so below, It
I
is
was
what it
reading this
is.
article, and it was literally about this woman, and she died in this car crash. And the chart did like show that
Oh.
energy, and I'm like, wow,
Huh. That's
but damn,
surprising.
yeah. But also, you wouldn't. I don't know. Well, I don't. Maybe a more experienced astrologer would see those things. Well, I guess,
Very
especially as someone
specifically.
who's specifically looking at death.
Right.
Um, so that means you've seen enough charts and that kind of thing. But like, I wouldn't put that together on the front ends. It's something that's easier
Right.
to see on the back ends. Like,
Right.
oh yeah, you see all those connections. But I
Yeah.
wouldn't have seen that. Like, oh yeah, it looks like she's gonna die in this way.
Because I think all predictive astrology, it's also up for interpretation. It's like, it
Yeah.
could mean so many things. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty rare that someone would say, like, this is how you're going to die and be accurate about it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it makes sense.
But I mean, maybe someone who's just like very experienced, who have just seen so many charts that like you start to see
Yeah.
similarities. I just
Yeah.
have not seen as that many to see,
To be
those
able
kind
to
of like
say,
connections. Like, ooh, you have that.
this is for
That's
sure
not,
what's going to happen.
yeah,
Like, yeah, I get that. That makes sense.
But yeah, yeah. So as we know, Venus and Jupiter are considered our benefic planets.
Hmm.
So Jupiter being the more benefic, because he's bigger, I guess. And then we have Mars and Saturn that are known as the malefic planets.
Hmm.
So with modern astrology, the outer planets were added. So Pluto, of course, is considered to be a harmful planet, to say the least.
To say the least, yes.
Very
Yes.
harmful. So we don't like to see that. Again, that's why we're always like, we don't like to see Pluto aspecting things for real. Like, you just, yeah,
It's not
it's not
good.
a good time. It's harmful,
Right.
So these three planets, Mars, Saturn, and Pluto, can be life threatening,
Okay.
but there's more to seeing death in your chart. So just seeing these planets is not enough, right? I mean, because they're going to be in the chart, right? They're there. But if they're hanging out together, you know, might be cause
Probably,
for concern in
yeah.
general. Like, if those three planets are hanging out together in your chart, you've probably got some stories.
Something's going on. Yeah.
You've got some stories. I don't know if you can articulate them. I don't know, but you definitely have had some experiences.
Mm,
Um, Probably not great ones.
right.
Um, so let's talk a little bit more about the eighth house.
Mm.
So for traditional astrologers, the eighth house is the first and foremost house of death. So this is where we're looking, going straight in.
Hmm.
So the planets in this house nuance the overall significance of this sector of the birth chart.
Hmm.
So now we're going to get into some new vocabulary here.
Ooh, okay. I love a new vocab word.
Uh-huh. And so it's important when we're talking about this to observe the ruler,
Mhm.
that's the house ruler,
Mhm.
and the almutin of this house.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about the almutin in just a second.
Mm.
But remember, the house ruler is the planet that governs the house,
Right.
the sign residing in that particular house. So
Mhm.
if it's Aries, that ruler would be Mars, right?
Right.
So just in that vein. So now the Almuten, which is an Arabic term, is the strongest planet when all essential dignities are considered.
Okay.
So identifying this involves considering the full range of essential dignities, right? So that rulership by sign, exaltation, triplicity, term and face is considered, not just rulership by sign. So you got to really get into, the Almuten is a little more complex, to say the least. Like,
Now,
you really have to.
I'm curious how that didn't come up when we did the episode about the dignities.
Now, I'm not sure that it wasn't information there, but I think when I did the research for that, it was probably like, this is about as much as I think we can take in.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That was a lot of stuff for that episode
Because
anyway. So I was like,
it definitely gets deeper.
right.
But yeah, I was like, this is probably a good cap for
That's
how
fair.
much we can take in on a podcast.
That's fair.
So this is a little more into that space. So we're really, when we're talking about the Almuten, we're really considering all of those dignities. And so whatever the strongest planet is, considering all that, that's the Almuten. So
okay, got it.
a point scoring technique is often used to determine the Almuten of any given point. So it's called the Almuten of figure, and that is the most dignified planet in the chart. So keep that information in mind. So when we're looking at the 8th house, we're looking at that strongest planet. Now, you might not have a lot of 8th house activity, and that's probably a relief.
Yeah, good for you if that is the case.
Right, like kudos to you. So now here's a house that is unexpected when we're talking about death. At least it was for me. And that is the 4th house.
The 4th house. Yeah, I don't know
House.
that I've heard that association be made before.
Right. It's the house of home and family. So interesting just to even, take that and think about it. So the 4th house is the furthest south of the ecliptic and therefore far from the light. And also represents the end of life.
Oh, okay.
Well, when
That
you
makes
put it like
sense.
that.
When you put it like that, yeah, I get it.
Far from the light, like, that just, that far from the light, really got me. I was like, yeah. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, the visual there
Just
really
really
gets
struck
me.
me, just
Yeah.
energetically, like, far from the light. Yeah. Uh, you are definitely in death. So this means that before the person's death, symbolized by the 8th house,
Mm-hmm.
the person's last days are illustrated by the 4th house, the planets it contains, its ruler, and Almuten. So when you want to investigate death in your natal chart, it's good to analyze the 4th house as it's the beginning of the end.
Beginning of the end.
I'm like, what's going on over there?
Oh,
Get
okay.
out of my 4th house, like Raven. Stay out of my Akasha Raven. Stay out of my 4th house and my
Stay
8th
out of my
house.
4th house
Just
and my
get over
8th
there. I
house.
mean, everybody's hanging out in my 12th house in my chart. So
Right.
it doesn't feel like that's any better.
Not really.
But
Not really, somehow.
I guess we just have to suffer here, but maybe, eventually it gets better. I don't know. Where the 12th house is not mentioned in this,
I'm
piece.
surprised
So
it doesn't come up at all, just being the end
yeah.
of the cycle, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Maybe I guess because I guess once you're in the 12th house, you're already a spirit. So
Yeah,
it's
there
like,
you
yeah,
go.
you've already experienced
You're already
death,
a ghost at that point, yeah.
right? You're a ghost now.
Which, it tracks. It's part of why you have so many 12th house placements, I guess.
I'm a ghost.
Christine is the ghost in human form.
Sexy little ghost.
A sexy little ghost.
Sexy little ghost.
This is the worst things you could be, I think.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the Arab lot of death. So, the Arabic lot of death is a concept that can provide information about the causes of death. This is where I get freaked out. I'm like, oh, no, I just,
I don't
first
really
of all,
want to know. Yeah.
I used to have like, when I was younger, I would be like, okay, I don't want to die these ways. I would have like certain things like, if, and I would like pray and I'm like, okay, God, please, like, I just, if I have to die, like, please don't let me drown. Also, don't want to die in the
Ooh.
fire. Like, of course, then you get to like, I really would like to just die in my sleep. Everybody's
Yeah.
just like, I like to
Can
go to
I just
sleep
go
and just
peacefully in my sleep?
pass
Yeah.
on.
Right. Right.
Well, spirit just, waft up off, the body. And
Perhaps
it's like, nobody, you
surrounded
know,
by my loved ones and,
right? Like,
in at an old age.
and, oh, hey, it looks like that might happen.
For you? Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that, but yeah, so I have my things, but I'm like, just there's certain things, like please not those things though,
Please
like
not those
car
things.
crashes, or if that's the case, cannot my spirit leave the body before the impact? Like, can you
Right.
just take care of that so we don't have to feel? Like,
Right.
I don't know. Anyways,
Oh,
so
it's so
then you get
dark.
into thinking about those things.
Yeah. That's,
But here we are.
here we are.
A lot of death, thinking about the causes of death. So this is one of the many Arabic parts, and it's calculated by adding the distance between two factors to the third factor.
Okay.
So some math shit. Okay. So here's the calculation, just in case anybody wants to get into the things. Um, it's the degree of the ascendant
Okay.
plus the degree of the eighth house
Mm-hmm.
minus the degree of the moon.
So once you add those together and then, or add, subtract, once you do the math, how do you then interpret that?
So I think that then goes back to looking at like these other placements, like in your fourth house, the Almutin, like, so then that number is going to be significant when you're tying back to those pieces. You're putting
Okay.
all this together because you have all of this has to work together. So this isn't like you can look at one thing. This is like you have to
Sure.
look at all these things.
Right.
And so this adds that extra layer, that number. So
Did
something
you
else to take in.
look into this at all for your own chart, or were you like,
Oh
I'm
no,
not? You're like, no, not fucking
I
around with
told you
that.
I don't want to know. Like, I don't want to know.
Truly cannot blame you. I don't really want to know either, honestly.
Maybe if I get old, I'll be like, okay,
Yeah.
tell me.
Tell me when is my
Is this
time?
on?
When is
Much
my time?
longer.
Yeah.
I've been here too long. I'm tired now. Any day. Some people get old and start saying it. They're like, listen, all right, just any day. I'm cool.
I hope it never comes to that for me personally. It doesn't sound good. It really doesn't. I'm like,
It's like, I'm ready.
I want
I'm
to be
ready.
living the life the whole time. Like, really,
Mm-hmm. Be ready to go. Some of them be ready to go. Like, I'm ready to go.
Okay.
I'm gonna head out. I'm gonna head on out. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna head out.
All right. So before we head on out, we're gonna talk about one last part here, and it is called the Anoretta, the life destroyer.
More new vocab words. I'm loving this.
I'm telling you. So, whew. So Anoretta is a term from Hellenistic astrology. And so it refers to a planet that severely afflicts the high leg. In other words, the life giver.
Okay.
At birth and by direction. So, high leg, right?
Okay.
That's a new one for us. And it's the life giver. And so the Anoretta is severely afflicting this life giver, and therefore being a life destroyer. So it is usually a malefic, but any planet can be the Anoretta, particularly the Lord of the eighth house, the Almutin of the house, or any planet placed in it.
In the eighth house, any planet in the eighth house.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
So
Do you have eighth house placements?
I think I do. I was trying to remember what was in the eighth house. It might be.
I also was
Actually,
just thinking, and I can't remember what I have in
I'm
the
like,
eighth
I know I
house.
have my birth chart open in my browser in one of these many, many tabs that I have
So many
open
tabs.
in my in everywhere. I've been doing very well with the computer lately and not
Mhm.
having a million tabs. Now I do have like 3 different windows logged into 3 different accounts,
Look,
um,
sometimes it just has to be like
working
that.
at the same time. But I'm doing me. Okay. Do I have planets in the eighth house? Yes, I have Neptune. Neptune is in the eighth house. That's what
Mm,
I was like. There's something in there, but I can't remember. It's Neptune.
interesting.
So it's an interesting placement. Not
Mm,
one of the malefics, but also again, depending on some of these other factors, it can definitely be any planet that's hanging out there in that house.
hmm.
So essentially, High Leg is the best planet, while Anoretta is the worst planet in a birth chart. So the Anoretta, listed as the taker of life, can easily be determined in a birth chart with the AstroSeek calculator. So,
Mhm.
get on AstroSeek, friends, and they do those things for you. Um, and so all these parameters have to be taken into consideration, like I was saying just a minute ago,
Right.
when investigating the death of an individual, right? So this is not one of those simple practices. This is
Hmm.
definitely a more
In
in-depth
depth.
thing. You want to talk to someone probably very seasoned in looking at death charts or
Right.
at death in charts. You want to know what's your success rate.
But
Did the
also,
person die? Like, I've been in
maybe
it.
right. How do you know? How to have you seen so many dead people's charts, okay?
But
Like, I don't like
yeah,
that.
I've got a collection of obituaries as proof.
Okay. That's better, I guess.
This is good to know.
Sorry, this is
Get your referrals in the death chart business. I'm not sure.
hmm.
Um,
This is just a
yeah.
quick side note, but I have 3 planets in the eighth house. Or like I have my Saturn, Venus, and Mars are all in the eighth house.
Okay, so Saturn and Mars is concerning because those aren't the malefics.
Those are the
But
malefics, yeah.
um, well, we'd have to look further. We'd have to look further.
We would have to
I
consult an
mean,
expert.
it's not one of these things. Like again, it's like we're all going to die.
Sure, right. It's
So
like,
it's
oh
just like,
no, I'm
well,
gonna
in what
die.
way? It's like, what does
Yeah.
that tell us about your death? Is more of the question, right? Like, what does it tell us about when, where, how,
Yeah.
why, who?
Why? Ooh.
All the questions.
Right.
Who was there? Who saw it? Was the family there? Was P there? C there? Mama there?
Uh-huh.
This tells you what time of night is. Okay, so that's a wrap on death. That's the end.
That is
My
the end. And that is
uh,
the end. Boom, boom,
the end.
the end. Yeah, I interesting shit. I obviously there's a lot to look at there, but again, like you said, there's really like everybody's gonna die, so it doesn't really say anything, you
Right, like
know.
no one's actually gonna just out. No one's gonna beat it. Like
Right.
it's like I beat death. Like I cheated
Mm,
it. Like no one's chart is showing. That you might get a. I don't know. It might show a second chance or something. Or you had a near death experience. Might be able to show you some things like that.
right.
Um, but everybody's gotta die.
Hmm. Interesting.
Everybody's got,
Well,
and it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
and
Again,
no, truly,
it could
I
be
think
a
the
very
world would be a much better.
beautiful thing.
Yes, I think it would
I saw a
be.
very beautiful dog funeral at the beginning of the week,
Oh,
and it made me like, I mean, it was just like it was probably very over the top,
yeah,
but like, I mean, but also I'm like, yeah, if when my first dog passed, like I had those kind of funds, I would have done that absolutely.
what was it?
Like
What were
I was like, it's so
they?
beautiful.
What did they have? Was it like a
I mean, it
full?
was like a full, like it was like casket, like the baby
Oh,
was laying in there. They had like swallow. It
oh,
just was like, I almost cried a little bit. I was like, pull it together. You're watching Instagram. Like,
Yeah,
it's a real
well,
Christine.
look, sometimes the reels really get you for real. Like I
I'm
caught
like,
myself
oh my
crying to a
God.
TikTok the other day, and so I
Yes.
understand.
I mean, they
Yeah.
added in I mean, there were pews, like, I guess it was in a little funeral home or whatever. And I
Yeah.
mean, there were people there. There were, I mean, beautiful florals. Like, I mean, it was just very
Hmm.
beautiful. Like, I mean, they brought little dog friends. Then that really took me out. You know, that took me out there. And they brought the dogs up there to see them I was like, I
Okay,
can't.
sorry, this is now we're on a death tangent, but I saw this thing the other day that someone posted, and they were talking about how when they died, they wanted someone to like bring their dog to show the dog the body because
Mm,
like dogs like animals understand death,
mm-hmm.
and I'm sure that they also have feelings about it, but like, just like humans do. But there's
Yeah.
like it helps their grief process because they don't think that their owner just left them. They
Yeah.
understand like they, they understand the death and then they can like cope with
Yeah.
it better. And I was like, damn, I hope somebody does that for me.
I know. Like,
Yeah.
I get in my feelings about the little pup
I
snuggle.
know.
Uh,
Shuts out.
but yeah, yeah, it just was very touching and sweet, and just I was like, oh yeah, I would spend that money. I would spend that money
Yeah.
and do the same thing. And non-pet people will tell you that is ridiculous and over the top, and I'm like, but I
But
mean, that's your loved
that's a
one.
being that you loved. Yeah, it's like the same
Yes.
way that, and I don't know. I feel complicated about funerals, and like I've had this conversation with a friend of mine who works in the quote unquote death industry because
Yes.
so much of it I think takes advantage of the living people who are grieving and going through a
Mm-hmm.
trauma, but I think there are people that do it in a really beautiful and caring kind of way. Anyway,
Yeah.
I feel complicated about funerals because I'm like, who is that for? Is that for it? And I think it really is very dependent on, I'm looking at it from a very like, skeptic ass co-host nihilistic point of view, which is where like, who's that for? That's not for me. I'm dead. Like,
Well,
that's
it's,
for
the
you.
funeral is definitely for the family. No, the
Yeah.
funeral is definitely for the people left behind.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting, I mean, altogether, the industry is interesting. And I definitely would love to have a part two conversation in general,
Hmm.
because there's so much more interesting stuff to talk about as far as the death
Yeah.
industry,
Yeah.
including the new things that, are happening in the death industry.
Hmm.
There's technology involved in some ways,
Hmm.
and different ways to continue life beyond death, maybe.
Hmm.
AI,
Interesting. Ooh, oh,
different
I
things.
don't like it. I already don't like it.
It's the no age of Aquarius is here.
Ugh.
Now, I watched a really interesting documentary on Netflix. It was one of those short ones, but it was talking about the different advances in the death industry. So I'm like, oh, I would definitely love to get into a
Yeah.
further conversation. I know you have a friend in the
Yeah.
industry, so I'm like, that would be a great,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Okay, we'll consider that for our season 5 if we ever do a part 2 on
Yes.
this, because then we can have Rachel on, and she's a Leo, so she'd probably love to be on a podcast. But yeah,
Yes.
I'm always intrigued by what. Well, I'm just intrigued in general by people who find that kind of stuff interesting. Just at all, because like I don't know, part of me is like, yeah, I could deal with that. But also I work with living people, and I think her take
Hmm.
is like, I'm better off with these people who have passed than I am with
Yes.
people who have died,
Absolutely.
which,
Now,
I, it
I
just,
I can discuss conceptual things about death all day.
right. Can you actually
The
like,
spirituality of it, but
mm-hmm,
actually, like, being like with grief is it's the grief that's
yeah,
the hard part. It's
you're
like
right.
being around people who are grieving, being like that energy is so heavy,
Mm-hmm.
and it
It
then takes
is.
me back into my own grief, and it just
Right.
it's not a place that is my forte of working in. um but I'm very interested in people who do and people
Yeah.
who, like, it's just like, people ask how we work with trauma, they're like, how do you take in that? And I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's
I
fine.
just
I just
I
do.
don't know. I
Yeah.
just do. Like, and so they're probably similar way. Like, I don't know. It's something that I
Yeah.
can deal with, that I can take in. Yeah.
Everybody has to have their own little niche of things that no one else wants to do, and that's what makes us all like very cool and interesting people, you know? It's yeah.
I'm telling you. Yeah. Yeah. So let us know your thoughts, people. Does death like really interest you? Have you looked
Yeah.
into your own death and through astrology or any other means,
Right. Do you have a
mediums or
plan for
what,
your own, like, do you have wishes for your physical body after you die? I know people have
Yeah.
a lot of thoughts about that.
Do you have thoughts about that? We didn't talk about
Oh,
that.
I have thoughts. Yeah, I absolutely have thoughts. I'd love to I
Anything
just
you want to share?
yeah, I don't know. I just again, I think like the big traditional funerals, like it's just it always feels wasteful to me, and like I know the chemicals and the carbon emissions that they use to like embalm
Mm,
bodies and stuff. I'm like, just put send me back into nature, send me back into nature. Cremate me if you want something and you want to hold on to a little piece of me, sure, but like everything else, like put me I don't have a will right now, so if anybody's listening to this is me telling you, please cremate
you
me
better
or
put
turn
that in some, and they're gonna have to fight for that because there are laws about how to dispose of bodies. You
right,
can't
right. You
just
can't just toss me into the river,
you
which I don't know
cannot
that
just
I don't
release
know
you
that
back
I
to
would want
nature.
either. But like, there's things that you could do. Turn me into
But
a
yeah,
tree,
yeah.
like
Hmm.
just don't. Please do, for the love of God, do not put me in a box. Like
Right, I know
I,
that part we can
ooh,
definitely, yeah.
my spirit will
I'm
not sit well with being put in a fucking box. So please don't do that.
yes. I mean, because eventually the body will decompose. Eventually, the
And
body
that box,
will.
that lacquered up ass box, is still gonna be in
Yeah,
there. Like,
I'm telling
no,
you. And then
thank you.
there's all the rumors about what actually goes into the ground. Does that
Hmm.
lacquered axe box go into the ground?
Right.
They come back and they take, because there's all
Yeah.
kind of scam stuff going on. I mean, it's wild, but
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very much of the like turn me into like a garden, a tree, or like
Yeah.
yeah, like make something beautiful and life come from it again.
Exactly.
But yeah, I'm not I've never been a fan of the funeral, and maybe it's because I just went to too many too early or something, and
Yeah.
just was like, again,
Yeah.
that energy is so heavy. I'm like, I've always been a fan of a New Orleans funeral
Ah,
because it's just
yes.
a parade and a party
Where
in the
it's a
streets. I'm like that.
celebration. Yes. Celebrate my
Yes,
life. Absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
If y'all want to get together, talk about how crazy I
Yeah. Please tell stories
like she
about
was.
me.
Wow, like she really was different. Like whatever.
Yeah. I
But
like
let's not
that.
sit and
You
cry.
can
Like
have a party if you want.
yeah.
I'd kind of like it actually.
I would love a party. Like, throw me a party. Like, hopefully, you
Yeah.
threw me a party in my life at some point, but at least throw a party in my
At
death.
the bare minimum. I think I don't want to get too far off on this because I don't want to make it too long of an episode, but I
I
do
know.
think
Yes.
that this deserves a part two because I think there's just so much to be said for the way that we process grief. And like I'm just thinking, you said New Orleans funeral, but it reminded me of the first time I went to Costa Rica. I was on the way back to the airport
Mm,
and we had to drive a little ways to get there, but we got stuck behind a funeral procession, and it was much like a New Orleans funeral. It was like dancing, they were playing music
wow.
and singing and walking the casket through the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it just I think the way I don't know if it's like America. Sorry, my edible's kicking in, so let me get off on my weird little tangent about how much I hate America.
Yes.
So I don't know if it's just like our Western idea of death. Like the Western culture is very self-centered, right? So it's all about like
Mm-hmm.
me and like what can I get and individualism
Mm-hmm.
and capitalism and whatever. And so I think that when someone dies, we all tend to make it about us and our grief
Yeah.
and not like celebrating this person's life and like who
Right.
they were and like I mean I don't know, I'm just fucking talking, but like sometimes it does feel that way, and it's like, I wish that we looked at it from a more celebratory, yes,
Yeah.
grief, but, like, honoring that person in a way instead of just,
Yeah. I
you
wish
know.
that the actual celebration of life, because oftentimes you'll go to a funeral and the program will say celebration of life,
Right.
and it's
It
not
always
that
does
there's
say
never,
that.
yeah, it's like it's not that there's never like high points or like points of levity in a funeral, but
Sure.
a lot of funerals are so heavy,
Mhm.
and it's just hard energy to. I'm like, I just can't,
Yeah.
I've
And
told you stories. I'm like, I just can't do it anymore. But
yeah.
it's just like let's celebrate the great things, the memories, let's get together in the backyard, do a barbecue or some, put them up on the screen, like,
Right.
look at that moment. Remember this video when they were doing this and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, and it's okay to cry, but it's
Mhm.
like let it be light, like,
Right.
let it be light.
Well,
I'm in a spirit form now. Let it be light.
right. Like, go outside,
Oh,
something.
yes.
I think about funerals and, like, our idea of what a funeral is and, like, how funerals culturally are here, and, like, even, like, the set and setting, a lot of times it's like funeral homes are, like,
Yeah.
sad looking
Yeah.
places. I'm imagining, like, the organ music is sad, like,
Mhm.
there's just so much to it that feels like stifling. And I
Yes.
also think that is the culture too of, like, America. Western culture is very like, obviously I think we're moving away from that, but we're like, our expression of emotion is stifled. And so I think about,
Yeah.
like, this past year, I think I went to 3 funerals in 2023, like, all within, like, 3 months of each other, and it was like,
Mm.
whew, it was a lot. Um, but, like, there's just so many people trying to stifle their emotion, and I feel like that is so unhealthy. Now I'm just on a tangent
Yeah.
about just talking about death in general, but, like, yeah,
Yeah.
if I die and you have feelings about it, yell them, scream them, cry them out loud, get them
Get
out of
it
your
out.
body, like, yeah, anyway.
But hopefully at some point celebrate, the fact that I was here, that I lived, that, hopefully,
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it's been ups and downs, but it's been a pretty good life, so
Yeah.
like we can talk about some high points,
Laugh
there's
about
definitely
it,
some good moments in there. Like, let's talk about those. Like, let's not just sit here and be, oh,
in it, like,
we ain't here no
sad.
more. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, no, I want you to be like, man, yeah, she was such a cool energy. Like, I'm glad I got to know her. Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah, I do think we need a shift. We are
Yes.
shifting a little bit, but yeah, like a shift in how we handle death,
Mhm.
how we see death, how we do
Yeah.
celebrations of life.
Right. Actually
Let it be a
celebrate it.
celebration then.
Right. Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
is it a dredge or is it a celebration? Are we dredging? Like, okay, we're dredging. All
Feels that
right.
way.
Yeah. So, we'll just go ahead and wrap the show here. So,
Right. Right.
um, if you all would like to send us your comments, questions, requests for
Look,
readings,
send us our celebrations while we're still here. Give us our
hello,
flowers now.
yes,
Don't
give
wait
us
till
some flowers today.
don't
Uh,
wait.
Don't wait till I'm gone.
No
You
need
can
to
send
wait
some
till it's
flowers in, but I'm not gonna
death.
be able to enjoy those.
Right.
So,
Right.
so I
Come
don't
on.
know who. Some of the family, I guess somebody else will get to enjoy those, but not me. And I like flowers, so I would
Me
like
too.
those. So email us at suchapiscespod@gmail.com, and that is spelled SUCHAPISCESPOD @gmail.com.
And other places to send us flowers virtually, or, however you want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, not Twitter, X,
X.
YouTube. Please check us out on YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, all the places. TikTok. I'm going to be posting some of our little clips on TikTok this week. So hopefully, you find us
Yes.
that way. And now that I've said it on the podcast, I have to do it.
Yes, connect with us, people. Like, we love to
Please.
hear from you. We love to see you. Hopefully, you're seeing us again. Check out that YouTube page. Go ahead and subscribe
Yes.
so you can be seeing all the content as it rolls out.
Don't you want to see our pretty faces?
Yes, like all the audio is there, the video is there. Like, it's a one-stop shop over there, and you get to see, our cuteness. So yeah, check all those things out, and we're gonna roll out of here this evening. So I will say, stay safe in these streets and protect your energy.
And as always, seduce and scheme safely. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.